Hey YouTube, Aiden here. I have a real actual review for the first time today. I've reviewed and gone over a lot of stuff that I bought myself or borrowed just to review it for everyone. I've never been sent something to try out and actually review for the masses and not get to keep or whatever. So this is Jeff Gittleson, or Long Island Brass Company's first attempt at a mouthpiece. I think he has a couple more out there, but this is one of the first prototypes, and I'm here to review it. Disclaimer, I was sent this for free. I don't get to keep it. I was not paid for this review or anything. So my words are what I mean. I'm not trying to get free stuff from Jeff or anything like that. Just so you know what I play bass trombone, obviously, but this is a Bach 50 gold bell, 50 tuning slide, 50 wrap with Shire's rotors, Shire's dual bore slide with yellow outers, nickel crook, sterling silver lead pipe is my current setup. And I typically, for the last little bit, I've been playing a Griego GP6 mouthpiece with this setup. But I have a bunch more mouthpieces to compare this to as well. So let's get on. I just played this mouthpiece a bunch. I've been practicing a bunch, and I've been using this to do it on the bass trombone. And just today, I ran through the entire Elon Morgenstern Fundamentals YouTube playlist, top to bottom, because that really lets you know how a mouthpiece responds in all sorts of registers and all sorts of different situations. And guess what? Now I have some stuff to say about it. So let's go over the pros of this mouthpiece first. Then we'll get into the cons and my overall thoughts at the end. So first pro, and this is a big pro, is this rim profile on this mouthpiece. Just feels so good. It's really comfortable. I think, and I want to say this, I forgot to say it earlier, this is, I guess I didn't forget to say it earlier, this is one of his first mouthpieces, right? So getting this right, I think, is something that should be surprising, to get the rim right. And it is really comfortable. It's not a profile I really find on any of my other mouthpieces. Maybe my Greg Blacks. Let me just check this real quick. No, it's different. Whatever it is, I really like it. It's a thinner rim. I prefer thinner rims myself. And honestly, I'm probably not a great judge of this because I can deal with almost anything except for wide rims. I even play Shilky 60, just a stock one. That is not an uncomfortable rim for me. I can play that. The Griego GP6 is a very thin, narrow, rounded rim, which I think is even less comfortable, honestly. But I can also deal with it, and it feels okay on my face. So maybe I'm not the best judge, but I really like this rim contour, and I would love to see it on maybe some of my other mouthpieces. So that's actually a big deal to get that right the first time. The response in the mid-register is actually quite good. I would say from second partial, so low B flat down to low B, up to high F, is completely acceptable. I'm missing some notes because I just talked a lot. That's on me, not the mouthpiece. But within this meat range where we play most of our stuff on bass trombone, I like it. It works. It's not bad. The third partial is quite good. The response in that partial, especially in this horn, is always iffy with mouthpieces, and this mouthpiece, it works. It feels pretty good. So chalk that up as a success. The response, since this is a lighter mouthpiece, is quite quick. I don't have to wait for it to happen, and playing it soft is not a chore. There are definitely some mouthpieces where, because of their weight or their size, playing soft is not very fun, and this actually works quite well in that regard. And the sound is acceptable. It's not a sound I strive for, that this mouthpiece makes, but if I had to live with it, I could definitely live with it. And I think it sounds like faint praise. It's not. There are mouthpieces out there, including my Shilky 60. I have a long shank one, which is supposed to be good. Does not make a very good sound. It actually plays quite well and does some other things well, but the sound it makes is not as good as this Gittleson mouthpiece. So it sounds like faint praise. It's not. It makes an acceptable sound, which not all things do. So let's get into the cons of this mouthpiece. It's a slightly longer list. Sorry, Jeff, but that's how it is. First thing is, it doesn't actually quite fit. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's wiggling in all directions. It feels like the taper is not quite the correct Morse taper to fit in the receiver. And none of my other mouthpieces have this problem. All my, like literally every large shank mouthpiece I have fits perfectly fine in this Edwards lead pipe. So, sorry Jeff, but you need to check your machining on the shank, I think. It doesn't fit badly enough that it doesn't work, or it feels really uncomfortable because it's constantly doing this, or it's not like leaking air or anything, it just wiggles. So I think the taper is just like 1,000th off or something. So that I can chalk that up to being a prototype probably. I don't think it's something you'd mess up on a production mouthpiece. The rim is a smaller size than I like. I play 29 millimeter, maybe 29.3. I think the GP6 is 29.3 millimeters, so Lasky 93 size. I also play my Greg Black 1Gs, which are 29 millimeter size. And this is like a kind of a full size smaller than that. It's not bad. I can still play it. Like I played a Doug Yale mouthpiece for quite some time with this same instrument. I can play it, but it's not my favorite. It's not it's not the thing I'm looking for. So for this size mouthpiece, I prefer to see the 29 millimeter, 29.3 millimeter size. And that's probably just a preference thing. I'm sure there's going to be different sizes of this mouthpiece. So just this particular example, it's like one size too small. Not enough to make me hate it, but it is a con. And I think the biggest con that I found is this one. He said is overboard, which means it has a .319. Where's the camera? There it is, right? .319 throat. Most of my mouthpieces, I think almost all of them, maybe except for I have a Giddings Bob Sanders mouthpiece, have a .312 throat. This is in inches, of course. I typically find .312 to be kind of the limit. It's kind of like the right size for a throat to be. You can probably be smaller, but any larger and you start to lose some clarity and especially ease in the high and low register. Not just the high register, but also the low register. The high range on this mouthpiece is oddly, and a high range I'm talking about basically 7th partial and above, so high F sharp and up. High range is worse than almost every one of my other mouthpieces, including, and I have one of these, Lasky 95D, like the big mouthpiece, 29.5 millimeter mouthpiece. One of the least efficient mouthpieces I own. Almost everything is better in the high register. And I realized this on the trills exercise in the Elon Fundamentals playlist. I can play the B flat to C trill. I mean, it doesn't sound great, but I can play it. If I play, let's say, and hopefully this works the way I want it to, Lasky 95D. There's a much more defined slot for both high B flat and high C on the 95D. This is a big mouthpiece. This is not easy to play. I don't use it because it's pretty hard to play. But it has a better high range than the Gittleson mouthpiece does. My GP6, which is a little bit smaller than the 95, but a little bit larger, I think, in every way than the Gittleson mouthpiece, has way more defined slots up there. It's so easy to play up there, and it's larger in every way. Rim size, depth, I mean, except for the throat, of course. The throat is the one thing. And, you know, high range on a bass trombone mouthpiece, probably not the biggest deal in the world, but I'd rather have a mouthpiece that's easier to play high than not. Surprisingly, even my Greg Black 1Gs have a better slot, better defined slot to that high B flat and high C. It's a little more fuzzy than the Grego, for sure, but it's still better. So that's a pretty big knock against this mouthpiece. For being smaller, the Doug Yo size, which also has a better high range, by the way, it should be easier to play high. I probably have like maybe a little more endurance because the rim is a little smaller, but otherwise, no, it's not as good. The low range is also worse because of the larger throat. It takes more air for the sound that you get, and I don't mind the sound. It's got a nice colorful sound and it responds pretty quickly, but even like my 95D, which is not an efficient mouthpiece, it's quite a honker, makes a larger sound a little more easily, especially when you get into the pedals. The pedals are especially not great with a larger throat. The E flat I just found is just not great on the Gittleson mouthpiece. And that's why I said earlier, it's really good in the mid register, where we play the meat of our notes. I just can't get the same instant response and large sound right away that I can on all my other mouthpieces, including the Yo, which is the same size as this, has monster pedals, like the best of probably all of these mouthpieces. It's got a really kind of amazing low register. So I'd almost like to see this rim on the Yo, and that would be a pretty ideal mouthpiece in this size. And articulations, because of that throat size, not quite as easy as they could be. I just, especially going up high, they're not bad, and it does respond quickly, but I found myself using a little too much air for what I wanted to do. I play a big mouthpiece already. That's not something I think about a lot, of using too much air. This uses a little too much air. Of course, I am playing a dual bore hand slide, so that's probably part of it. So what are my thoughts overall? It might sound like I'm being very negative right now, but this is the first mouthpiece from Jeff. And I have to say, for a first mouthpiece, I mean, look at a first mouthpiece from probably anybody else. I doubt they're this competent right off the bat. This is the first one from a fledgling maker. I mean, he's making trombones, he's making some other stuff, but making a mouthpiece is a whole different ballgame. So kudos to Jeff for a first outing. I could live with this mouthpiece if it were my only choice, or even if I had some other choices, just not the choices that I have next to me right now. So I'm really looking forward to what he does in the future, and I'd like to play just a .312 throat version of this to see if it clears up a lot of the problems I had with it. Good job, Jeff. There's room to improve, but I think we can say that about just about everyone, including me. So thanks for watching. See you guys next time.